episode 177, Sauce, Thinking Before Sharing.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
Yes, folks, yesterday I aged in dignity. So, welcome to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Now, a few days ago, I came across one of my Facebook friends sharing something which was logical in itself, but it was totally fucking ridiculous, so that I actually did some research, not before requesting a source. And that's what this episode is going to be about, what the consequences of that actually can be. But before we sorry, I had to put my phone away. So, before we get down to that, I think I promised I'd get on your nerves a few months ago, every single episode in context to the paradigm of this podcast, in that sharing is caring. So if you find this episode interesting and you think of someone that find it even more interesting and it relates even more to them, make sure to share this episode with them, because then you care for that person, because the episode can help them. And ever so often, I briefly want to go over what the origins of this podcast actually were. So I started this podcast as a persiflage, or a big fuck you towards, all of these motivational coaches and gurus out there who give you good vibes, good messages, good ideas. And, their first meetings are free, and, or their first content is free. And then all of a sudden you get to their paywall and they want these obscene amounts of money, only to give you more good ideas to enrich, you get the point, right? It's this, they're ass raping your wallet for good advice. And good advice, I think, should be free. So, therefore, as a big fuck you with quite provocative episode titles, I started out on this journey to kind of stick it to not the man, but the wallet rapist, right? And then after, I think, the second or third episode, I started getting emails. And, they were like, hey, well, fuck, this content is actually valuable. Please carry on doing it. And that was motivation enough for me to go and basically topple all of the shit that I had put together, kind of sensitize it a little bit, and then roll it out to the fucking public in the expectation that I'm actually going to help people. And the feedback that I'm getting has gotten more and more and more, to a degree where I can't, really work with it anymore. But still, keep it coming. It's food for the soul. And that's where this podcast originated. So the credo that I kind of rolled out is that, even though that an episode may not be really that interesting to you because you've already mastered that, what I tried to say in the story, maybe not really along your lines. Maybe I'm using a little bit of too many fuck words or whatever. Doesn't matter. As long as as the title or the content may relate to someone in your sphere of influence and can help them. And that's what this podcast is really about and turned out to be after the first few episodes. Now that we've got the fucking housekeeping done, finally, let's get down to business, right? First of all, I think we need to clarify a little bit. Sauce is not, of course, sauce. It's a word really that came, or a disambiguation, or whatever the English terminology is. I can't think of it right now. Where on my favorite internet shit platform, 4chan, somebody was asking for a source, and obviously through autocorrect or whatever typed sauce. And since then, that has been a synonym for source. So let's get started. Now, if you share something on social media, there's always going to be, this quote unquote Russian bot trying to influence your opinion. And they're piggybacking off of the social media algorithms. Now, all of these algorithms, be it Facebook or Twitter or whatever, their prime objective is to keep you online as long as possible so that they can sprinkle advertisements into your feed. And therefore, they're going to display all sorts of shit just to keep you engaged, just to keep you on the platform, just to increase the time you spend on the platform, which essentially is wasted lifetime, because you're not seeing the shit your friends are posting. You're actually seeing the shit that is going to keep you on there longest. Now, if coincidentally, one of your remote friends is going to post something that spikes your interest, yeah, it's going to be shown, right? But it's not going to be that they're going to show you the really important lifetime milestones that a lot of your friends actually make. Get fucking used to it. That being said, you're going to be tempted because you've got a certain mindset. Everybody does. And they're going to feed off of that. And so when you share something that hasn't been vetted by anyone or is from a questionable source, here's the thing. Your friends may end up reading that. Most importantly, though, your feed, like most people's, is going to be public, which in turn means that, you should post something, or you should share. Well, no, you share a shit post. Let's put it that way. You share a shit post, and your employer ends up reading that. Or, whatever, your line manager or your, commanding officer or whatever the fuck it may be, whoever the fuck it may be, right? You can get into deep shit, right? And that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that there's going to be a certain amount, a certain direction of thinking that is going to be shared about you to your friends. So should they see your posts, because maybe it gets a lot of engagement from your other friends, right? They're going to think of you as a fucking idiot, right? Now, for me, that's not a problem because everybody knows I'm a troll, which means that, a lot of the stuff you will find on my Facebook feed is about flat earth, is about tinfoil hat shit and everything, and it's a lot of sarcastic crap that I post. So, people are like, no, that guy can't be that insane. So he's probably trolling. I'm quite obvious about it. And for me, in the position that I'm in, I don't really give a fuck. My feed until recently was public. And so, I couldn't have bothered less who reads it and what their opinion is, because from my profession, I'm on a very short list of people you can call for serious problems. And most of my other, competitors, they're usually stoned and unavailable. So people reach out to me. But that being said, let's go one step further, right? The content that you share, and this is important, right? Only if it touches on timely, sensitive subjects. Let's take the Rona. Will the content that you get displayed be fact checked? And I say this with very, very, very big quotes and italic text, because the fact checkers are usually the people who post the content, right? It's a very interesting concept that they came up with, because presumably they're, very objective in the fact checking. But if you go ahead and check the facts of the fact checkers, right, that they bring as counter arguments, you quickly and very quickly, if you're not a complete idiot, you end up figuring out that the rebuttals or whatever you want to call them they post are useless, right? You check their sources. The sources are dead. The sources are, maybe even in line with the original post, right? And so very interesting stuff. So you can't even take that for granted. So, which brings us to the point that you have to do your own fucking homework, which brings us back to the friend that actually posted something, which kind of got me thinking, right? So number one, I asked him, what's the source? The reply was, source? And I was like, yeah, you're sharing something, which, somebody wrote on their Facebook page, right? And I think I know that, I'm pretty sure that that is inaccurate, right? And so obviously it was this bitch who had a lot of followers who was posting not interesting stuff. It was stuff that a lot of people got engaged in because it was very emotional. It had this heartfelt writing style to it with a lot of devious illustrations. And of course, she got a lot of, replies and likes and whatnot out of the shit that she posts. That's really interesting. So it was rewarding for her. So she carries on posting shit like that, unsubstantiated claims, without sources. And, and it's like, it's her mindset that you're sharing, right? It's not facts. She wrote this as a fact. And it's definitely untrue, right? Anyhow, so since the content that you're getting fed is in line with your worldview, you're less prone to vetting the content. That's what I just said, right? You have to sit down on your ass and actually review what you just read and then try and find sources for it, or just don't bother taking it seriously in the first place, right? Because I can write that, whatever I want to write. And if my following, and if I'm good at writing it, and if it's, heartfelt and all emotional and everything, there's a lot of people, especially in the snowflake society nowadays, who are going to share it, right? And they're not sharing anything but my mindset, right? There's no facts to it. And I can twist and turn the facts all I want, and I can say there's, legal precedent to this, when there isn't, and people will still end up sharing it. And that is just de facto fucked, right? So, anyhow, you may end up, sharing content that is fake, just fake. And, that someone just pulled out of their ass to, troll people and to share their individual mindset. Part of, thing is, do you want to be complicit in that, right? So, in turn, this can make your public feed a treasure trove for arguments, not to hire you, for instance, to fire you, for friends to start thinking a lot less of you, really long-term friends. And that's actually what happened to this dude, that I just mentioned earlier. And, a lot of stuff can go down the river just because you didn't invest the work and didn't have the attention span to sit your ass down and review the shit that you shared before you did. And I think that's kind of like the point I wanted to get across on tonight. Well, yeah, in some parts of the world, it's tonight. So, in today's episode. So in that sense, happy Tuesday to all of you. If you've already had your happy Tuesday, have a good night. We'll be back in touch tomorrow. We're going to talk about improvement, right? Stay safe, folks. Bye.